Welcome to the space between two lines. I'm Alex Saunders, and this is a space for real, honest conversations about fertility, pregnancy loss, and the journey to parenthood. Here, we hear the stories of people navigating the highs, the lows, and everything in between. A place to feel seen, understood, and less alone. Because every story matters, and so does yours. Today, I'm joined by Alyshia, who was diagnosed with stage 4 endometriosis in 2022 and began trying to conceive right away. What followed was not a straight path. Major surgery in 2022, a failed IUI, IVF, and 3 unsuccessful embryo transfers, all while navigating the heartbreak of losing loved ones along the way. This is a story about grief layered with resilience, about continuing to show up when life keeps asking you for more, about a quiet strength it takes to keep believing after repeated loss. Alyshia's journey is raw, real, and deeply human, and she's generously sharing it with us today. Welcome to the podcast, Alyshia. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
It's okay. I know what you're about to talk about today is deeply personal and very vulnerable. So I really appreciate you being here. And I know that your story is going to be something that a lot of women can relate to. And something that's going to be really beneficial for someone who might be going through something very similar to yourself.
Yep.
Awesome. So do you want to start by just introducing yourself to our listeners, telling us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I am Alyshia. I'm 32 and from Southeast Melbourne. I live with my partner Jack of 7 years. Shout out to Jack if you listen to this. And my cute little doggie Zara, who's my absolute world. So yeah, I've had a bit of a journey with fertility and also endometriosis, which I was diagnosed as stage 4 in 2022. And that's kind of where my fertility journey started. It wasn't really on purpose. It kind of just happened that way. And yeah, it's been a real journey ever since. And I suppose, the reason why I'm on this podcast really is the same reason as you, Alex. Just to try and help people feel a little bit less alone in this journey because it is very isolating. And it can be really, really difficult to navigate and talk to people about. So it's kind of, about breaking that stigma. And talking. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, exactly right. So did you want to chat about what your life looks like before your diagnosis in 2022 and what led to that diagnosis?
Yeah, so life before my endo diagnosis was kind of almost like living in the dark a bit. I was on contraception for a really, really long time, which in the endo world, that masks a lot of the symptoms that happen. So you kind of don't really know that you have endometriosis until, those symptoms start raising their head. When I was with my partner, I think we'd been together for maybe 4 years, kind of made the decision that, contraception wasn't really needed. If a baby happened, it happened, and we were kind of in a stage of our lives that, that was going to be okay for us. So I came off contraception, and the symptoms really started to show from there. But life before that was like, God, I mean, I was a girl in her 20s and out with the girls all weekend. And, I'm a pretty active person, so doing a lot of physical, like gym kind of stuff. But yeah, it is a bit crazy how it kind of just came out of nowhere. Like as soon as I stopped that contraception, I really thought, okay, something is not quite right here. And then that kind of led to the journey of diagnosis from there.
Yeah. Did you have any really specific symptoms that you thought, like when you said there's something not quite right, what were the specific symptoms that kind of came to rise once you went off contraception?
Yeah, so I'd probably say the main thing would be pain.
Okay, yeah.
Especially around period time. Like the pain just became very, very severe, to the point where it was like bedridden, couldn't do anything. Like if I knew I was going to have my period that
Right.
week, I would cancel my plans and kind of plan to stay in bed essentially. So that was the main thing, and just heavy bleeding and random bleeding at random times during my cycle, like outside of my period. So yeah, that was a red flag for sure.
Mhm.
But those are the main two kind of things that I thought, I don't think it's normal to be in this much pain, um, as a female going through your cycle. So yeah, that really led me to push for some answers, I suppose.
Yeah, which leads to my next question. When you did make the decision to get medical advice or medical help to get to
Mm.
the bottom of what was going on, number one, what were the steps involved in that? And when you first began, did you feel supported and heard?
Oh God, no, like absolutely
Mm.
not supported and heard. I really, really have to keep pushing, and it took a really long time. I think from my initial appointments with my GP, we talked about going back on contraception, and I just thought, I don't, that's not an
Mm.
option. It's not a cure. It's not going to help me get to the end of what this is. So that was sort of the main option, and I did need to push. And I just thought, you know what, I'm gonna go for this. And I just said, look, I really want to see a gynecologist. There is something not right. I know it in my gut.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I made an appointment to see a gynecologist, and I couldn't get in for like 4 months or something
Wow.
ridiculous. This was kind of like just coming out of COVID as well. So, the medical system was really backed up at that stage. So yeah, I went to see a gynecologist, and then I had a scan, and then I had to go back and see her. So it had been sort of 6 months since I'd started trying to get
Yeah.
a
Okay.
diagnosis.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, but I went back to the gynecologist after they did my scan, and they saw the endometriosis on my scan. And the gynecologist said to me, "Oh, I can't help you. Like, you need to go and see an endo specialist." And I'm like, "Oh, great." So 6 months has already gone past. Then I have to go
Mm.
and see another specialist. That takes another 3 months to get in to see him. So I'm already
Yeah.
9 months down the track. And
Yeah.
I think where things sort of go wrong is a lot of women give up by this stage. Like
Yeah.
it gets to the point where it's too hard. It takes too long. No one's listening.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I did go and see a specialist who could tell from my scan that there was endometriosis present.
Mhm.
And he kind of said to me, "Look, you've got two options. Um, you can try and conceive naturally. It can happen if you have endometriosis, or we go down the path of having surgery." But he was very, yeah, sort of concerned that if you want to have a baby, you really need to start thinking about it sooner rather than later.
Yeah. Okay. And I guess with both your diagnosis and that information that you were given around fertility, what were the emotions that first came up when you did get that diagnosis and then also when you were told that information?
Oh God, I remember being at the scan for the endometriosis, and they can't really tell you too much because they're
Mm.
obviously not, doctors. And but they at stage where I'm like, can you just it was very silent in that room, and I said, can you just please tell me, what you're seeing? And she said, look, there is definitely endometriosis there. It's deep infiltrating. I can see that. And I just remember just like my stomach just dropped, and I left that scan like in tears. I thought, what does this mean to me? I didn't even know what endometriosis was.
Mm. Yeah.
And before I'd even seen the specialist, like the immediate emotion was just, yeah, devastation. I just thought, what does this mean to me? What does this mean to
Mm.
my fertility? Does
Yeah.
this mean I need to be on medication? Like I had so many questions. Um, and yeah, and it just it was a shock, a very much a shock. Although I knew something was wrong, I didn't expect to, because they always say that, endometriosis is really hard to pick up on scans. And I thought,
Mm.
well, if they've seen my endo on scans, it must be pretty bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the main emotion, yeah, devastation and a lot of questions.
Yeah, confusion for sure.
Yeah.
And can they, based off the scan, can they diagnose what stage you are, or is that more if they, when they operate, they can diagnose what stage you are with endometriosis?
If I think they can to a certain degree, it
Mm-hmm.
definitely diagnosed like properly in surgery.
Yeah.
Um, but because I had deep infiltrating endometriosis that they could see on a scan, that does only really occur if you're stage 3 or stage 4. Um,
Mhm.
so I knew it wasn't great, but you don't get an official diagnosis until, yeah, you come out of surgery essentially.
Yeah. And I mean, you said after you walked away from that consult that you had a lot of questions. Did you feel supported in getting the answer for those questions, or was it more you went home, you did your own research, and kind of took the next steps upon yourself?
Yeah, I think I went home and jumped straight on Dr. Google.
As we
Like,
all do.
what is this disease? What is happening in my body? And you kind of go down a bit of a rabbit hole of, yeah, Googling and questions and that sort of thing. But because I think it was so many like weeks and months between appointments, so I'd seen the specialist, I'd got the, scan request, gone to have the scan, and you got to go back into
Mm.
the specialist. Like that all takes weeks,
Time.
sometimes
Yeah.
months. So you
Yeah.
are sat there like questioning what's
Yeah.
going on because
Mhm.
you just don't have those answers.
Yeah.
But
Sure.
yeah, I definitely did a lot of home research, that's for sure.
Yeah. Okay. And then, so when you had these two options of going down the path of surgery or trying to conceive naturally, what did you
Mm.
decide to do?
Well, I sort of said to the specialist, like, in the time that I've been waiting to actually see you, which is like
Mm.
nearly a year from when I first went
Yeah.
to my GP, we had, been trying naturally and it wasn't happening. So I knew that there was something affecting that as well. So, and the pain had just got so severe that I just thought that there's no way I can keep living like this. And if it's going to get any worse, it's really going to start affecting, work and life in
Yeah.
general.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely opted for the surgery.
Hmm.
Um, Not necessarily for fertility at that stage, like it would have
Yeah.
been nice, but the pain had just become, yeah, out of control.
Yeah. So it was affecting your day-to-day life at this point.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And it was only continuing to get worse.
Yeah. Okay. So from that point, you made the decision for the surgery. How long did you have
Hmm.
to wait to have it done?
Oh, I think I want to say maybe a month to 6 weeks. It wasn't too
Okay.
long.
Yeah.
Um, and I kind of planned it because I was going to Bali and I'm like,
Mm.
I'm going to Bali first.
Oh,
And
yes,
then like
absolutely.
2 days, I think it was like 2 or 3 days after I got back, I went into surgery. I was like, there is no way I'm missing out on this.
Oh, yes,
This holiday.
absolutely. Yeah, for
So
sure.
so yeah,
Yeah.
we went to Bali, came back, and I had surgery. And to be honest, I wasn't sure what to expect. Like I knew the surgery could be quite a brutal recovery, but I'm
Hmm.
not sure I really expected it to be as bad as it was.
Yeah, okay.
Um, so yeah, I had the surgery and I woke up and the doctor came in and said to me that I had stage 4 endometriosis, which is the highest stage you can have. Which I sort of knew that before going into surgery, but I'm sure my surgery started at 12 and I woke up at 4:30. So I'm like, okay, well, I know there's been a lot going on because I've been,
Mhm.
under for 4.5 hours.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, he essentially said, look, it was everywhere. Like we cut out a lot. I had two cysts in my right ovary, which they had to cut out and then reconstruct my ovary. There was just a lot that happened. And he
Mhm.
showed me all the surgery photos and things, and I was like, oh my God, I have no idea what I'm looking at, but it looked awful.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so I came out of that surgery thinking that that was going to fix everything. I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, I've had surgery.
Okay. Yeah.
They've told me that they've cut it out and, this and that. But he did say to me, there's no cure for endometriosis, so we can remove it, but you know, there is a high chance that it will come back at some stage. Um, but yeah, I felt a lot of hope after that
Mm.
surgery.
Yeah, of course. And were they giving you hope as well?
Yeah, well, they did say to me after the surgery that because they'd cleaned everything up, I also had a hysteroscopy, which is like they check inside your uterus.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had a DMC, so they flushed my tubes and checked
Yeah.
everything, and they said everything was looking great. All my fallopian tubes and stuff were fine.
Mhm.
Like my ovaries were fine. Well, the one that they had to cut open was going to take a bit of time to heal, but essentially everything looked great. And
Mhm.
he said to me, "You should be able to conceive naturally within 6 months after this
Okay.
surgery.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you need to come back and see me."
Yeah.
So we were kind of just left with that. And I was like, great. Like, you know,
Yeah.
we're going to
Yeah.
be pregnant next year. Like, this is going to
Yeah.
be easy.
Yeah. And then, so once you had recovered from the surgery, did you
Mm.
start trying to conceive naturally?
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
we did start trying to conceive naturally. Just like timed ovulation and the ovulation strips and the things that you do at home. But yeah, it it got to oh, I had surgery in September. Yeah, it was about 3 or 4 months of trying and still nothing was happening.
Mhm.
Um, yeah,
Did did you have a like a pretty consistent cycle at that point? Were you able to track when you were ovulating month by month,
yeah,
or were your cycles
yeah.
still? Yeah, okay.
So even though
Yeah,
I had endometriosis, my cycle was still like pretty much bang on
yeah,
every
okay.
month.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I was able to track everything, pretty much to the T. But yeah, you know what it's like. You get the strips and the tests and the
Oh,
this
it's
and
yeah,
that, and you
I
track your
know.
temperature and you
Nightmare.
do this
Honestly,
and
nightmares. Most people can relate to that.
yeah, yeah.
So I guess during that time, like you've had your operation and you've gone to this place of feeling really hopeful. You've been
Mm,
told basically you're going to be pregnant in 6 months. What emotions and feelings came up, month by month when you were trying to conceive naturally, and then you've got your 2 week wait, and then again it's a negative pregnancy test.
yeah.
How did that feel, and how was your relationship during that time?
Oh, it was just, I don't know, it was obviously disappointing. Like every
Mm.
month, doing the test, not pregnant, doing the test, not pregnant, and just kind of thinking like, when is this going to happen? Like I
Mm.
had it imprinted in my brain, you
Yeah.
should be able to conceive within 6 months, and that
Mm.
timeline's getting shorter and shorter,
Yeah.
and still nothing's happening. And it was, yeah, it was hard. It was really hard. Like we had a
Mm.
lot of hope after that
Yeah.
surgery. Um, so yeah, it did put a strain in our relationship.
Mm.
Because essentially, you put your life on hold hoping that this is gonna be a
Yeah.
baby at the end.
Yeah, for sure. And that's the other
Yeah.
piece of the puzzle, isn't it? You are essentially putting your life on hold and stopping plans because in your mind you're like, oh, well, I'll be
Mm.
pregnant then, and then it's not happening for you. So it's
Yeah,
such a challenging
exactly.
time.
Yeah,
Um,
you commit to this journey and only this
what?
journey. Like there is
Yeah,
nothing
yeah,
else that you can really do.
yeah,
So yeah,
and it
and then
consumes you.
yeah, it does. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really hard. Um, so I guess how long did you wait until you decided, okay, I'm going to go back to? Was it a specialist or fertility specialist that told you to come back and see him?
Yeah, so that specialist is an endosurgeon and a fertility specialist, so both
Okay. Yeah.
in one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he said 6 months, um, and it got to oh January, and I had another like hiccup which I wasn't expecting. My nan passed away, and that was just like a
Mhm.
massive blow.
Yeah.
So trying
Mhm.
to conceive and think about having a baby like in the middle of really extreme grief was just something that was like it kind of all from January it really just went on hold a bit because I'm like
Yeah.
I
Of
cannot think
course.
about this right now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So that was
100%.
yeah a big
Mm.
catalyst in this journey as well.
Yep.
Um But yeah, it got to February, which was, 6 months or nearing 6 months after surgery.
Mhm.
So I booked an appointment to see him because I'm like, well, this isn't happening. And, you know, it's been 6 months.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, booked an appointment, went back to see him, had a few more scans and some blood tests and things, and started kind of figuring out what we're going to do. The specialist at the time suggested that we would do an IUI before going into IVF, because everything from the surgery, looked okay. Everything was kind of healing fine. There was still no real reason that they could see as to why this wasn't really happening. So yeah, we went ahead with an IUI, and started that whole process, which
Do you want
was,
to just explain that just for anyone who might
yeah,
not be aware what that process looks like?
yeah. So IUI for us, I know there is different processes depending on what specialist you see. But
Hmm.
it was basically medication, like oral medication daily to kind of induce ovulation.
Hmm.
And then it is a timed insemination. So we'll collect a sperm sample from your partner. It's all timed. You have scans and blood tests in the days leading up to that procedure to check that, your follicles are growing and that you have a dominant follicle. So they check everything. It's basically a timed insemination
Hmm.
without obviously intercourse. So it's kind of
Yeah.
the first sort of stage after trying naturally, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And then how did that process go for you guys?
Yeah. So I started the medication and that was fine. Went in for the daily scans and things like that. That was also fine. Had a blood test. We got the kind of go ahead from the doctor to say, okay, everything in your body is looking ready to go. We're going to do this in 48 hours or however long it was going to be. So you book all that in and then you get a script for a trigger injection, which you do that
Mhm.
night.
Yep.
And then 36 hours after that is when you have your procedure. So it's very time based, and everything has to be to the T.
Yep.
So yeah, we did that and we started the medication. It was like 2 weeks of oral medication. And then had another blow when my grandfather passed away
Oh
during
gosh.
that time. It was just, yeah,
How
there was
awful. Yeah.
a lot. Like there was
Mm.
still a lot of grief happening from when my nan passed away in January. And then we're talking like April at this stage when my grandfather passed away. Yeah, and they told us the day before my grandfather's funeral that, you're going to be doing this in 36 hours.
Mm.
So I literally had picked up my trigger injection from the chemist that morning and they said, well, you need to take this home to the fridge. I'm like, I can't, I'm going to a funeral and I can't, not be
Mm.
there. Um, so yeah, I took my needle to the funeral and I was hiding it in the fridge and it was a
Yeah.
real mess.
Yeah.
And the timing was awful, obviously. Um,
Mm.
but yeah, when you're in the middle of a cycle, you can't just stop.
Yeah.
When life gets in
Mm.
the way, you can't just say, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, we went ahead and did the trigger, had the procedure. They said everything was looking fine.
Mhm.
And yeah, then 2 weeks later, it was, yeah, a negative result from that IUI. So
Yeah.
a lot of emotions came with that, obviously, because,
Yeah.
well, I was already emotional from, grief of losing family members. Um,
Yeah.
and then this was just kind of, yeah, I just thought, why? Like, why is this
Yeah.
still not working? Like, it's been over 6 months since my surgery. Like, I couldn't really understand why, yeah, why this hadn't happened. I really thought it would happen. And I look back now and I'm
Yeah.
like, a bit naive of me now knowing what I know. But yeah, at that
Yeah.
time, I was really, really hopeful.
Yeah. And you don't know what you don't know. And when it feels like everyone else around you is getting pregnant easily, you do
Yeah.
ask those questions and you kind of wonder, it's not fair. It isn't fair, especially when you
Yeah.
were going through all of those other things as well. So totally understandable feelings and
Yeah.
emotions. So after you received that negative pregnancy test, was the decision next to go to IVF? Like, how were you feeling in that moment? Did you need some time? Like, yeah, what did the next few, I guess, weeks look like after that for you?
Yeah, so IUIs are also expensive. So
Yeah.
there was definitely a money factor in that as well. And I thought if
Mm,
I'm going to be paying like, all this money for this procedure, like we may as well do IVF because the
yeah.
cost difference, like through the clinic we were at, wasn't really that much different.
Yeah.
And IVF has higher success rates than what IUIs do. So we kind of weighed up like the financial part of this and like, what if we just keep going with IUIs? Like, they're a couple of grand each cycle. Um, so, you know, how many are you going to do before then essentially you have to move to IVF anyway?
Yeah.
Um, so we talked about that. And the clinic that we were at was involved in some stuff in the news headlines that I'm sure everyone's probably heard about if you're in the
Yeah.
IVF world.
Yeah.
Um, so that scared me a bit, and I was
And
like,
yeah.
I don't feel comfortable being here. So yeah, we made the decision to move clinics,
Yeah.
and also just go straight into IVF.
Yeah. Okay. Um, so then I guess, do you want to talk through that experience you had? So we're talking now in 2020, halfway through 2024. Is that
Yeah, this
correct?
is like
So it started
May.
from 2022. So I can imagine, first and
Mm,
foremost, you're exhausted at this point,
yeah.
and then you're doing research to another fertility clinic, and then you kind of, I know what it's like, although your information can be carried over, it is in a sense kind of like starting again. You've got to meet, you've got to
Mm.
have those appointments before things can move. So yeah, what did that look like for you guys? And yeah, how was your IVF journey?
Yeah, so as you said, there's a lot of appointments and things that have to
Oof.
happen before you even start IVF. So you need to do counseling, you need to do all the blood tests, if you're with your partner, semen analysis, they just
Mhm.
do everything.
Yeah.
And it is really hard to get that information carried over from clinic to clinic. So, yeah, we essentially started from scratch. And I wasn't mad about that at that point because I really just needed a break for my mental health.
Hmm.
Um, like, still, just the grief was really like taking over at this point. So I thought I just need to have a step back. I can do all these appointments before we move into IVF. So yeah, we did that, and then yeah, pretty much went and saw the specialist. They said, "Yep, let's do a egg collection cycle." So what that looked like was 2 weeks of needles every day, sometimes twice a
What?
day. If you know,
Yeah.
you know. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a part of the
Yeah.
process,
Full
but
on. Yeah.
I think yeah, I had such a different mindset going into that IVF cycle because of all the things that had happened to me in the previous months, with loss and things like that. I just thought like I looked at the needles and I thought this just this isn't hard compared to things I've had to do in the last 3 months. So
Yeah.
although adding grief and things like that to, on top of the IVF journey, in a sense it did make things feel easier because I thought, well, I've just had a massive loss. If I can get
Hmm.
through, the passing of my nan, I can do a simple needle.
Yeah.
So yeah, in a way, it did make me feel a lot stronger.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, we went through, 2 weeks of needles, went into egg collection. I was really scared because I just had, so much bad news. I just thought, oh God, like if I wake up from this surgery and it's another, bad news or more bad news, how am I going to, cope with that? It's,
Yeah.
you just,
Yeah.
it's blow after blow after blow after blow at
Mm.
this point.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I had the egg collection and I woke up and they had 14 eggs, which I was not
Wow.
expecting. Yeah, I was really like excited, shocked. I was
Yeah.
thinking maybe like, I don't know, you expect the worst. You really do. Like when you're going
Mm.
through all this sort of stuff. So I
Mm.
thought, okay, I'm gonna go into this and my number in my head was five. Like, so I have
Yeah.
5 eggs, I will be happy.
Hmm.
But yeah, it came out with 14, which was great. I
So
was
good.
really excited
Yeah.
about that. And that was the first kind of bit of positivity I'd had, in a while. Um, And yeah, over the coming days, with IVF, they do kind of start to drop off as the
Hmm.
day go on. So you're hoping to that day 5 blastocyst stage, and you hope that as many eggs as possible get to that. But yeah, we ended up with 3 eggs in the end from that 14.
Yeah.
So I knew that number was going to decrease a lot, but I don't think I expected it to decrease that much.
Yeah. That was going to be my question. Did you feel well educated going into obviously your egg collection and after finding out the numbers? Did you feel well educated in knowing like how much it does drop off, like with your numbers?
Yeah, well, one of my really good friends had been doing IVF like a couple of months
Yeah.
before
Okay.
me, and she
So,
worded me up
yeah.
and she goes, "Look, you need to
Yeah.
expect to at least lose 2/3 of those eggs."
Yeah.
And I thought, yeah, whatever. I'm like, I got 14 eggs. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's gonna be fine.
Yeah.
Again, so naive now that I look back and
Yeah.
think about it, but yeah, I knew that they were going to drop off, but I thought we would have a few more in the bank. Um, but we did end up with, 3, 4 AB graded embryos, which is a high grade embryo. So
Yeah, which
yeah,
is good. Yeah.
yeah,
And
it's
I
hard to
think,
be disappointed with that, but
yeah, and I think they actually do say the average for like an egg collection and embryo count is
mm,
about 3. So that's the
yeah,
standard. But I think that we don't have those expectations going through, especially if you have a high egg collection count.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I came out of that egg collection and before I went into the egg collection, I was having so much like bloating and pain and like weird symptoms. I was feeling like nauseous and all this sort of stuff. And I freaked my clinic and they had concerns that I was going to have OHSS,
Yeah.
which is ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome. And it can be quite serious if it gets severe. Like they do say that, if your pain increases, like they tell you to go to emergency and they, ring you twice a day to check that you're alive, basically.
Mm.
But yeah, so I was really, really worried about that as well because
Yeah.
going into the egg collection, they, had concerns about that.
Mm.
And they kind of said, it can peak after egg collection. Um, so yeah, luckily I had a mild case of that and it felt like such a relief. Once those eggs were out, I was like, oh,
Yeah.
hallelujah.
Did they change your trigger shot or did they keep the same one? Because I know quite often they do change your trigger
Yeah, I
before.
did. They did
Yeah.
change the trigger. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They did that for me as well. So then that obviously meant that you couldn't have a fresh transfer. You had to wait for a frozen.
Yeah, so
Is
it
that
was
correct?
very on
Yeah.
edge. They weren't sure
Okay.
if I was going to be able to have a fresh transfer.
Okay. Yeah.
But luckily, in like the couple of days after surgery, my body really started to bounce back, and it just honestly felt like an immediate relief to have those eggs out.
Mm-hmm.
So they said that we could go ahead with the fresh transfer.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, again, like the excitement, like thinking
Yeah.
in my
Once you're in
head,
it. Yep.
yeah, like in a
Yeah.
couple of days, there's going to be a little embryo
Yeah.
in there, and
Yeah. So
yeah,
you obviously made the decision to go ahead with the fresh transfer.
yes, yeah. And
Yeah.
I
Yep.
think in hindsight, if I knew what I know now, I would have waited.
Hmm.
But you kind of once you're in the momentum of doing all these things and having all these appointments, like it is hard to stop and pause and have a break and that sort of thing. Like you just I don't know. I felt like I had to keep going. That was the only way I could like mentally get through a lot of these appointments and procedures
Yeah.
and all that stuff. So yeah, I
Yeah,
went
for
ahead with
sure.
a fresh transfer.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I've heard a lot of people say that, but when you are actually in it, when you want something so
Mm,
desperately, a month is a lifetime. So if
yeah,
someone can tell you can have it in 5 days, of course you're going to say yes, like absolutely, and
yeah,
have all your hope
100%.
on that. Without, I think that, yeah, I was fortunate enough to have a forced break, but if I
Mm,
didn't have a forced break, I would have chosen to have a fresh transfer. And I know after my recovery, my body was not ready. So
Yeah.
it's kind
Yeah.
of like, yeah, it's such a hard thing to be in, but yeah, totally understandable. And I would have made exactly the same decision.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so I guess as well, just throughout the IVF process, how was your relationship at this time? Because you guys had been through a lot, even just to get to IVF.
Mm.
Did you feel well supported? Was there any impacts on your relation? If you feel comfortable sharing, of
Yeah,
course.
of course.
Mm,
Yeah, look, it is. I would be lying if I said
mm,
that IVF doesn't put a strain on your relationship. It really
yeah.
does. And I think for me, knowing that it was something that was happening in my body and not his body, I had a lot of guilt around that. And I think,
Mhm.
there was times I was, lashing out probably when I didn't need to. And, you're under so many hormones and things like that. Your emotions are just going crazy. So I
Yeah.
think poor Jack, again, shout out if he listens to this. He
I
copped
imagine.
it. He
Yeah.
copped the brunt of it.
Mm,
But yeah, he was so supportive and, trying to be supportive on days when, I was being a real a-hole. It's probably, yeah, they deserve a medal for it. They really do.
yeah.
But yeah, it definitely puts a strain on your relationship. But knowing again what I know now, it makes you so much stronger,
Yes.
and you just connect so much more, like
Mm,
over the
yeah.
trauma, I suppose, of what IVF
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it was very hard.
Yeah. I can imagine. Okay, so you've had your fresh transfer. Do you want to talk
Mm.
me through what happened next and yeah, how that felt and what the emotions that came with that?
Yeah, so had the fresh transfer and like immediately after the transfer, I was like, I'm pregnant.
Mm.
Like I
Which
was
you
like,
are. You are pregnant.
yeah, well, they
Yeah.
say that, they do say to
Yeah.
you, you are pregnant until proven otherwise,
Yeah.
basically. Not in a court of law, but
Mm.
yeah,
Yeah.
you come out of that appointment and I had so much hope. I was like, oh my God, there's an embryo inside me, and you start planning your life.
Yeah.
Like you think, oh my God, like I was walking around my house going, oh, that could be the baby's room and this and that.
Yeah.
And you start really, really like thinking too much into these things, and you start planning your life around the fact that you
Yeah.
are pregnant.
Yeah.
Um, and then you go into the 2 week wait, which is obviously, probably I
The
would say,
worst.
yeah, one of the worst parts of
Torture.
IVF.
Yeah.
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 Um, so yeah, I felt excited. I was really, really happy. I was like, oh my God, this is
Hmm.
going to be amazing. And I thought, this is something that I hadn't, done before. I didn't, well, I hadn't had an embryo inside me that I'd known of in the past. So I thought it's going to work.
Yeah.
And I was really, again, naive, but it was nice. I felt like I was in a bit of a fairyland for the first like
Mm.
5 days.
Yeah.
And then starts the at-home testing, which
Yeah.
is a rabbit hole that, a lot of people go down. So yeah, I started at-home testing, and because I still had the trigger shot in my system, in the beginning, most of the time they
Yeah.
give you a false positive.
Mm.
Um, and I just remember thinking like the first time I did that test and it came out positive, because I'd never had a positive pregnancy test
Yeah.
before. I was like, oh my God, this is
Yeah.
amazing. And you
Mm.
you really like again start going down that dreamland of, I'm
Yeah.
pregnant. And
Yeah.
so yeah, that happens. And then I was still testing, daily after that.
Yeah.
And then that line just sort of faded and faded and faded and
Mm.
faded into nothingness. Um, but yeah, you hear a lot of people in the IVF world say, well, you shouldn't at home test, and you don't actually know the result until you have the actual blood test. So I got to the blood test stage, I thought, there could still be hope. They say you shouldn't, trust the at-home test and you should wait for the blood test. And yeah, so had the blood test, and then got that dreaded phone call of, unfortunately it's a negative result, and the implantation hasn't happened. Um, and yeah, I spiraled at that point.
Mm,
I was like, I can't believe that I'm not pregnant. I really, really had a lot of hope.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, and then yeah, again, you're grieving the loss of, that embryo, and you're grieving,
Yeah, of course.
a life that you'd sort of planned in your head.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, it was yeah, definitely a shock.
Yep. Okay, so once you found that information out, were you wanting to still push forward? Were you wanting to have a break because you still obviously had two more embryos on ice?
Hmm.
What were your feelings at that point, moving forward? And was there an element of being a little bit afraid at this point because you had so much hope and then you've had this negative pregnancy test? Like, what was that feeling like for
Yeah,
you? Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. I was afraid. I was like,
Mm.
I mean, it took me, well, probably a good week to kind of like be sad and, grieve and recoup. Um, but yeah, I just thought, oh my God, like now I have to go and do this again.
Mm. Yeah.
Like I just did this and I thought this was
Mentally,
going to
yeah.
be it. So you have to, gear yourself up to go on.
Mm.
But I really found that if I stopped and really had a break and took time to process these things, I think I would have crumbled. Um, so for me, it was a lot easier just to keep pushing and to keep going. So I was like,
Yeah.
it took a couple of days to be sad, and that was fine. But straight back into the clinic. Let's
Yeah.
organize the second transfer. Let's get this going.
Yeah. Throughout this period as well, and I guess throughout your whole journey, did you ever lean on any additional tools for support? Like, how did you get
Yeah,
through those times and just get through life in general, dealing with all of this on the side?
I did. After my nun passed away, I went to a psychologist, I think maybe 2 months later.
Yeah.
Um, and she specialized in, well, she specializes in a lot of things, but a lot of fertility and like childhood things, and she's an expert in that kind of area. So I knew that she would
Mhm.
be able to help me also with my IVF journey if I needed that support, as well as, navigating grief. Um, so yeah, I started seeing her and it was really like life changing. I think I had a day where I just was like, I'd never felt that down and just heavy and just yuck. And I thought, I really, really need to go and speak to someone about this.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, if you are going through this journey, I would honestly highly, highly, highly recommend going and speaking to a professional,
Yeah.
because it really does make the world of difference.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
Okay, so did you want to talk us through, so you wanted to push on
Yeah.
with your next transfer. So what happened next?
Yeah. So, again, went through, the cycle process. I think I was on, God, I can't remember the medication, but some sort of oral medication might have been letrozole or something along those lines to
Yep.
support this transfer as well. Um, so yeah, went through that whole thing. You get to your ovulation stage, you have all the scans and all of the tests to make sure that you're ready to go. And then yeah, you book that transfer in and you go there and you see your little embryo and they take it out of the freezer and defrost it, and it's all very
Yeah.
scientific and
It's
feels a bit
wild, isn't it?
bit
Yeah.
weird. But
Yeah. Yeah. For
um
real.
yeah, so and I went into it with quite a bit of hope. But I decided that with this transfer I was not going to do any at-home testing. Um and I just went in with the mindset that, if it's meant to be, it will be, that type of thing. And they do tell you in the IVF world that, the more transfers you have, the higher your chance of falling pregnant becomes. Um,
Hmm.
so I think, yeah, I don't know the exact statistics, but,
Yep.
second transfer, higher chance, maybe like 40 or 50% or something along those lines.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, went into it with like quite a lot of hope, had the transfer, and yeah, this time I was like, I'm not going to put myself through the torture of at-home testing. So I didn't, and I
Mhm.
waited
Good on you.
until
That's
yeah. Oh God, it was hard.
so good. I have to imagine.
It was really hard, but you just have to try and stay busy and you distract yourself like during those 2 weeks because you can just make yourself go crazy basically. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so didn't do the testing at home and I waited for the blood test. Um, and I had like, I don't know, some symptoms or what I thought were symptoms during that time. Your body kind of tricks
Yeah.
you a little bit and, you
Mm.
start thinking about, oh, I've got a cramp. Is that implantation? Or, you might, if you have a little bit of spotting or something along those lines, like there's a lot of symptoms that you get from the IVF medication that is the same as a pregnancy symptom.
Cool.
So,
Yeah.
you do start, thinking of any little twitch, oh, my boob's sore today, am I pregnant? You just, you go through all of those emotions and symptoms. Um, but yeah, and then got the phone call again that it was another failed transfer. Um, so kind of same with the first one, the emotions just hit you like a freight train. You just think like, why me? Why is this not happening? Why does everyone else get to have this? Like you really start going down that rabbit hole um, of questioning, like why is this not happening?
Yeah. Did you have those questions for your fertility specialist? Like after you had the second failed transfer, did you go back
Yeah,
and talk to them?
I
Yeah.
did. I said to them like I don't really want to go ahead with my last embryo transfer,
Mm. Yeah.
unless we do like some additional testing. Um,
Yeah.
which yeah, we did. I ended up
Hmm.
having a scan and some more tests for my endometriosis.
Yep.
Which did show that I had endometriosis present. So although I'd had the surgery in September last year, it had come back. Um,
Yeah.
without doing another surgery, you can't
Mhm.
really see to what
Yeah.
degree.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I was concerned. I'm like, but how? Why?
Yeah. Yeah. Did they do any blood tests or anything, or had you kind of, it was just more testing for the endometriosis at that point?
It was more testing for the endometriosis at that point.
Yeah.
Because in the beginning I'd had a lot of blood tests. Um, but yeah, we just did the endometriosis testing. Um, and the doctor kind of said to me like, well, it's too soon for you to be having another surgery. You only just had one in September.
Hmm.
And you know, there's nothing to say that you can't fall pregnant if you have endometriosis,
Yeah.
but it can affect your fertility at the same time. So it's kind
Yeah.
of yeah, it's one of those things that's like, well, you can, but you can't.
Yeah. And what did it feel like finding out that the endometriosis was back as well after such a short amount of time? Is that quite
Yeah,
common, or is there no real like how I don't really know much about it. So
yeah.
yeah.
Look, it is common to a certain degree. I think everybody is
Yeah.
different.
Hmm.
And a lot of people, there's a lot of natural therapies you can do for endometriosis, to suppress as well. But again, nothing is really scientifically proven.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, it's, I was told after surgery that, it is likely that someone with endometriosis after surgery will have it again at some point in
Yeah.
time. But yeah,
Okay.
definitely was not expecting it to be back that soon.
Yeah. Okay. So after you had that information, what did you decide to do from there?
We decided from there that, I wanted to take the doctor's advice and not have another surgery just
Hmm.
yet, at least anyway.
Yeah.
So we changed the protocols, and we decided to do a natural cycle, like embryo
Yeah.
transfer cycle, so
Mm-hmm.
non-medicated, and just alongside my normal cycle.
Yeah.
So yeah, I kind of felt good about that because of each transfer we sort of tried something different. My first transfer was the fresh transfer with different medication. The second transfer, the frozen with again different medication. And then this one was going to be okay, let's see how we go without any
Yeah.
medication. Um, so we
Yeah.
did switch it up a bit each time, which again like made me quite hopeful because I'm like, okay, well, I'm trying
Mm.
something I haven't tried.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, we went ahead with our third embryo transfer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think because we'd had a month break in between to do all the endometriosis testing and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I think I felt cautiously optimistic, I think is probably the right word.
Yeah.
By this point, like I'd obviously had quite a few failures with the IUI and the two transfers. So
Mm-hmm.
I thought, okay, third transfer, a lot of people statistically fall pregnant on the third transfer. This is my last embryo. It's got to
Yeah.
happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, we went ahead with that transfer.
Mm-hmm. And then what happened next?
Um, we went ahead with the transfer, and I decided to test at home this time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I knew sort of by, I think, maybe day 7 after the transfer that it had not been successful again.
Mm-hmm.
I did have a brief moment, like on day 5, where I did a test and there was an absolute squinter of a line. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh my God, am I pregnant? Or is this still the trigger? Or like you start
Yeah.
going through all these thoughts but yeah, after it only lasted sort of one day, and then yeah, the next day it was dark white negative. Next day, dark
Mm.
white negative. And then I got my period before the blood test.
Okay.
Um, so I knew that it had failed before the blood test, and
Mm-hmm.
I just, I every part of my being did not want to do that blood test. I was
Yeah,
like,
of course.
I already know that it hasn't worked. And I just thought, I was angry. I was like, this is just cruel that they make you, still go and do a blood test, even though,
Yeah.
you've got your period or
Mm.
you've been at home testing. I know it's a
Yeah.
legal requirement and that sort of thing in
Yeah.
Australia. And I think it really needs to change because it's just
Yeah.
a cherry on top.
Okay. Yeah. Yep. And how, once you had the, obviously you already knew, but how did you cope in that moment? Um, oh, sorry. Can you hear me? Just
Yeah.
paused. Yeah. So I guess, yeah, how did you cope in that moment, finding that information out, and trying to move forward from that?
Oh, um, yeah, it was really hard because it was our last embryo. It was kind of like our last hope, our last little
Mm.
baby on ice. So yeah, it was just the grief um was different to the other transfers, just knowing it was the last embryo that we had. Um, but yeah, I think by this point I was angry. I was mad. I was like, why? Again, you go through all the same questions that you've been through, through the whole year. But
Yeah.
yeah, I was angry. I was defeated. I just like, and when you go through IVF, your body changes and your emotions are all over the place. And I just had one day where I just sat down and I was like, I don't even know, like, I don't even recognize myself anymore. Like, I just really felt like I wasn't even in my own body, and
Mm.
I wanted to be left alone. I wanted to be at home. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I didn't want to see
Yeah.
anyone. I didn't want anyone to ask me about anything. I just wanted to hide and I just wanted to run away. And
Yeah.
that was my coping strategy at the time.
Yeah. I guess touching on that, I know you've spoken about your relationship, but how were your external relationships affected, or were they affected with family members, friends, work? Was there
Yeah.
anything in your life that was affected throughout this time or is still affected now?
Yeah, absolutely. I found it really difficult to navigate a lot of external relationships like during this time because
Yeah.
I just felt like no one could understand me. Like shout out to all my beautiful friends. I love them so much. But they've all, well, most of them have been able to, fall pregnant naturally and, they're having their first baby, second babies, like some of them have completed their family. So I found it really awkward and almost pointless for me to try and go and lean on these people when they're not going to understand, where I'm coming from and the situation that I'm in. Um, but now that I look back on it, I wish that I had. But in that moment, I was so convinced that like no one understands me. There's no point in doing this. There's no point in talking to them about this. Um, yeah, so it's been really, really hard to navigate external relationships, especially with family and stuff as well, because they have a lot of hope for you. Um, like parents and if you've got
Mm,
siblings and things like that, like they want the grandkids and they want the nieces and nephews, and they're all in your corner. But I think it can be also disappointing for them as well, when a negative result comes in because, it's kind of like expanding their family in a sense as well. So yeah, it was
yeah, and
really,
yeah. Sorry, continue.
no, it was just, yeah, really, really, really hard to navigate friendships and especially, and family, but especially when you, have like events and things like that on. Like I had a lot of um baby showers and a lot of friends that were falling pregnant at the time. And that was really, really hard to navigate. Like there was a lot of times where I had to just say, look, I'm really sorry, but I can't be there. Um and yeah, they were all beautiful and understanding, but you know, a part of me was like, oh, you're not a loyal friend if you don't go to these things and that sort of stuff. So yeah, it was a constant internal battle with yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a hard thing to navigate and to know what your boundaries are and learning what your boundaries are. But it sounds like, yeah, you've been able to navigate that to an extent and know what's right for you at this time. So,
Yeah, yeah. I
and I
think you
think
have
that's
to.
something, yeah, I think that's important for listeners. And I know it took me a very long time to know what my boundaries were and what situations just weren't right for me at that time. So it's something that
Mm,
is difficult to navigate. But I think at the end of the day, your good friends will be there, standing there at the end, waiting for you, regardless. So,
yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
And it is a lot
yeah,
about boundaries. Like you need to,
yeah,
and you'll figure out along the way,
mm,
where you stand with certain things and, what situations
yeah,
you're comfortable with putting yourself in. Um, but yeah, I think one thing that I learned, and if I could give anyone a piece of advice, like during this journey and navigating friendships and relationships and things, is um, you're allowed to feel two things at once. So you can be happy for your friend, you can be ecstatic that they're having a baby, but you can also be sad for yourself. Like there's no right way of dealing with these sorts of things.
yeah,
But yeah, just you can feel two things at once.
yeah. And I guess, what does life look like for you now, moving forward?
Yeah, so life for me now is essentially back to square one.
Mm.
We have no more embryos. We used our final embryo, so we've just been having a bit of a break for the last few months of the year.
Yeah,
And I've just had a bucket load of testing done.
yeah,
A lot of
yeah,
immune testing now as well.
yeah.
Um, and yeah, seeing a new specialist at the end of the month. I'm having another endo assessment in a few weeks as well. So yeah, we'll see what that comes up with.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, I think for us now is just trying different angles. There is so much to learn in the IVF world. It is not as simple as putting a sperm and egg together. There's a lot of
yeah,
other factors that come along with it.
yeah,
Um, and a lot of other, you know, health issues that can arise, I suppose. Um, so yeah, just testing, testing.
Yeah.
And yeah, hoping for some answers, I suppose, because we still, don't really have the answers that we're looking for. We know that endometriosis is present, but yeah, I I do think there may be something else at play here. So it's just yeah about having a new specialist in our corner
Mhm.
to look at things from a different angle and a new lens, I suppose.
Yeah. And are you open to continuing with IVF, or are you trying to look at other options at the moment?
Um, I am open to continuing with it if the specialist thinks that's something we should do.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think it's now kind of time to look at it from a bit of a different approach. Um,
Yeah.
which there are so many. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, hopefully 2026 is my year.
Yeah. Cross everything for you. Um,
Yeah.
you I've noticed that you've been extremely brave and started opening up online about your experience.
Yeah.
Sorry. So first and foremost, how did that feel being open about your journey? Did it feel like it took a weight off for you? Was it a scary experience? And have you been able to connect with other people going through similar journeys by doing so?
Yeah. So it was definitely very scary.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it has made such a difference.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think you have to be a very, very brave person to do that. And shout
Yeah.
out to you because I think if I hadn't seen your videos and things online, it would be a different story. Um, but yeah, the community with IVF and things like that on TikTok and that sort of thing is amazing. Like they are so
Yeah.
supportive. I get messages every single day
Mm.
from
Yeah.
people, wishing me all the best and,
Mm-hmm.
giving me recommendations and whatever it might be. But yeah, I just couldn't believe how many people were going through the same thing. Like
Yeah.
when I was in it, I thought I was the only one.
Yeah.
And I thought there was no one else I could speak to. There was no one else who knows what I'm going through. I felt really isolated and alone. And I think opening up about this journey and being vulnerable about it and letting people know that it's okay to talk about it, it's okay to be sad, it's okay to grieve, it's okay to do all of these things. It just, if I had someone like that I was watching during my journey, it would have made me feel so much more at ease. Um, and yeah, I just think it's been a life changer. But
Mm.
in saying that, it was incredibly scary.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think like the first couple of videos I posted, I literally posted them and like threw my phone, ran away. I was like, I don't want to know. I don't want to. Who's
Yeah.
going to see this? People will know
Yeah.
that I'm doing IVF because
Mm.
at the start I wanted to keep it secret. I was like, I
Yeah.
want to be able to surprise people and be like, hey, I'm pregnant. And
Mm.
you lose the ability to do that when you're,
Yeah.
going through IVF.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I was worried about who was going to see it, but
Yeah.
after the first few and like seeing how supportive everyone was online, um,
Mm.
yeah, it definitely made it feel a lot easier to keep
Yeah.
sharing.
Yeah. And that's why I asked you that question, because I had a very similar experience and I felt very isolated and alone. And I just want people to know that there are so many people going through this. And until you do open up about it, the floodgates, well, when you do open up about it, I should say that that's when the floodgates opened. I felt like even in my area, like I know people who have spoken to me going through similar things, but I would have never known that unless I opened up online. Not saying that everyone has to, but more just the messaging that there is a community out there and there are so many people going through, like they'll be on their own journey, but some sort of fertility journey, and like you are not alone. And to, I guess, message those people that are on TikTok, reach out to them if you need to talk to them, because I don't know about you, but from personal experience, like I'm always willing to speak to someone because I wish I had that support when I was in the absolute trenches as well. So,
Oh, 100%. Like it's
sorry.
really, really amazing. And if I had the same experience as you, I had so many people
Mm.
that I actually knew in real life
Yeah,
message me
exactly.
and be like, hey, I did IVF, or hey, I did this and I did that. And I'm like, what?
Yeah,
When?
exactly
Who?
right.
What?
Where?
Like they do,
Yeah.
yeah, they do kind of come out of the woodwork, and
Mm,
it just makes, yeah, it makes all the difference in the world. It really does. And
yeah.
like once you start getting, if you are going through IVF and going through this journey, and you have a look on TikTok and you want to message those people,
Mm,
message them.
yeah.
Do it. If you message
100%.
me, I will reply, I promise.
Yeah. So right.
Yeah, it's
Okay,
a
well,
completely different,
yeah,
support network.
it is. I always say it's the worst community to be in, but it's the most beautiful community.
Yeah, that is absolutely
Yeah.
true.
So you have already given so much amazing advice throughout your entire interview. But I guess if there was anything that you really wish people understood, firstly about endometriosis, because I think even the first part of your interview is very important, even for people who aren't necessarily entering their fertility journey yet. It's
Mm,
just, I feel like endometriosis is such a hidden disease and it isn't spoken about enough. I think it's being spoken about more, but I think more information needs to be out there and it needs to be spoken about more because it's such a cruel silent disease that we don't know enough about.
mm. I would say if you are having any sort of symptoms as a woman that involve extreme pain, extreme bleeding, anything that is just does not feel right, please, please, please push for a diagnosis and push to see those doctors because it is not a normal thing to be in that much pain. Um, and that is something that we are kind of told our whole lives. Like it's normal to have period pain. It's normal to have this. It's not normal. And I would just say push for that diagnosis because your life doesn't need to be in constant pain. There are things that you can do to improve your quality of life. And yeah, just push for those answers. Like you said, there is a lot more coming out about endometriosis now.
Mhm.
But there is still, a lot of doctors that will sort of sweep it under the rug and say it's just period pain and that sort of thing. So yeah, I would definitely say push for those answers.
Yeah. And then if there was anyone starting out on a fertility journey or even just they're in the trenches of infertility or struggling, is there anything, any messaging you wanted to know, any advice you wanted to give them?
Oh God, so much.
Hmm.
So much.
Yeah.
Um, talk about it. Don't sit in silence and, isolate yourself. Just really try it and talk about it and just let yourself feel what you need to feel. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to go through it. It's okay, to cry and to be upset and to put yourself out there and be vulnerable. But yeah, just hang in there. It's just such a journey. It really is. And I just think if yeah, if you again, if you feel like you have no one to talk to, reach out to us, message us,
Oh,
find someone on
yeah.
TikTok. You are never
Yeah.
alone. There are so
Mhm.
many women going through the exact same thing. Um, but yeah, it's just hang in there. It's a journey.
Yeah. Yeah. And my final question is throughout your journey so far, is there anything that you've learned about yourself or anything like, I guess, any self growth, anything that you've taken out of this experience?
Oh God, to be honest, I think I'm a completely different person now.
Mm.
It's really, really, really changed me. I'm so much stronger. Like I just think
Mm.
about little things in life that I used to complain about that really weren't such a big deal. And I just have a lot of gratitude now. But yeah, just normal life things and science as well. Like I never realized, how much science was involved in all of this and
Mhm.
to the beautiful nurses and doctors and specialists and that are literally creating life. Um, so much gratitude for them and just a lot of gratitude, yeah, just in general for, everyday life, everyday happiness, health, is a big one.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I just feel a lot stronger and a lot more appreciative of, yeah, just the little things.
Yeah, well said. Well, thank you so much for your time and being so brave and honest and sharing your story. I know I personally and everybody listening to this is going to be rooting for you and that 2026 is your year and you get your happy ending. Makes me emotional even saying it, but yeah. I'm going to be behind you, and I
Thank
know that
you.
anyone listening to this is going to be behind you as well. And I also know anyone listening to this who is in a very similar stage to you will at least have this to lean on if they are feeling alone.
Yeah,
So thank you.
absolutely.
What you have done is amazing, and you're a part of something amazing.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you to you too, because you really have like paved the way for people like me. So you give yourself a big pat on the back.
Oh, I don't deserve that, but my goal is for people. I just I just don't want people to feel alone, and I want people to
Yeah.
have something to lean on, because I know I certainly didn't have a tool like this, and it would have been amazing to have at the time. So
Yeah.
that is
Yeah,
my mission.
absolutely.
So yeah, thank you so much.
No worries. Thank
Yes,
you.
sir. This has been The Space Between Two Lines. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and register on our website to share your story. The link is in the bio. Until next time.